Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting candlelit poinsettia, and I'm sipping on some black cherry tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, Mars black, fire red, deep yellow, green oxide, and of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'll be using for some drawing, and then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a 1/4 inch wide flat bristle brush, and I have a number 6 round synthetic brush, and I will refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course you can switch those up as well if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you'll probably want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing for the first step is I'm going to be painting my background. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush, and the color I'm using is black. I'm going to be painting the entire canvas with black paint so I can have a nice dark base for my composition. Because I'm using black as my background, I don't really need to use any special brush stroke because black is very forgiving when it comes to covering your canvas. It covers very well. You don't typically have a lot of streaking when you're using black paint, so it sinks nicely into those holes. It's got great opacity, which means you can't really see through it. So what I like to do is just kind of go around the edges like this to make sure I've got all of my edges, and then I'll hit the center of my canvas. You could even wrap this around the exterior edges of your canvas. That will make your project look nice and complete. I tend to do that quite frequently. Sometimes I do it during the painting process, or sometimes I'll do it after I'm all done the painting. And you can, when painting the edges of the canvas, you can either use the colors that are within the painting as you're in that area. Like if you're doing a sky, you can pull the sky around, or a lot of times I'll just use one of the darker colors that I've used within the painting as that border color, and it looks almost like a frame when you're looking at the painting when it's up on the wall. So you can really choose to do any color around the edges, or you don't have to. I just like to do that because it makes my project look nice and complete, and as if I have paid the same amount of attention throughout the entire project as I did just for the painting part. And so once I've got this all colored in, what I like to do so I have a nice even layer of paint is I'll take my brush and just lightly do these really long strokes back and forth because my paint is still a little wet, and this will help to level it out, make sure that I've hit all of my spots. And then we are going to be using our piece of chalk for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your large brush away, take out your piece of chalk, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to draw an outline for our candle and our poinsettia. I'm going to be using my chalk. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. I'm just going to use my chalk because I like to. It's easy to erase and paint over, so it works for me. I do recommend before you start this step that you make sure that your canvas is dry. So this is that time where you get to take an extra long break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry. Or you can do as I did and just pull out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through a series of markers, and we're going to connect those markers, and we're going to have a nice basic shape that we'll be able to color in for our candle, and then for our poinsettia we'll be doing some nice simple shapes for the leaves on it. So I'm going to start with the candle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself the center of my canvas. So left to right, top to bottom. For me, that's right about in through here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the right of that, about an inch, inch and a half. That's going to be the right side of my candle. And then I'm going to go to the left of my center. If this is about a quarter of the way over towards the edge, I'm about an inch to the left of that. So somewhere in through here. So this is the width of my candle. You could certainly make your candle whatever way or size you'd like. I've just got mine a little to the left of the center. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from my center point. I would say maybe about 3.5 inches. This will be the top edge of my candle. And then what I'll do is I'm going to connect here to here and here to here with rounded kind of corners to it. So almost like a square type of top, but I'm rounding the edges of my candle a little bit because to me my candles kind of melt and they get soft around the edges, so I'm going to make them a little bit softer. Then what I'm going to do on the right hand side is I'm going to extend this maybe about another inch, and then on the left hand side maybe about another inch, inch and a half, somewhere in through there. That's going to give me, actually let me bring this one down. Let's bring this one down just a little bit farther. Maybe we'll bring this one down to about here. So maybe bring it down maybe about 2 inches farther than that one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my poinsettia. So the poinsettia can be characterized as a flower or a plant. I think it's really kind of a plant, but it's got red and green leaves. The red leaves are closer to the center, and then the green leaves are farther apart. It's a very traditional Christmas season type of plant around where I live, so that's why we're doing it, because I think it's really pretty and holiday-esque. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself where I kind of want to have the center of my poinsettia. So for me, I'm going to have the center right about in through here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a series of long kind of pointy-ish leaves that come off of it. And I'm going to make them as if this poinsettia is kind of resting on the table. So I'm going to have them kind of longer at the bottom and shorter at the top. I'm going to draw my front leaves first, and then I'll build my back leaves around it. So if this is like where the center of my plant is going to be, what I can do from that, you could even mark it with a little marker if you wanted to. What I'm going to do from there is I'm going to make myself my shapes of my leaves coming out from there. So I'm going to start in through here. Maybe I'll have a big one kind of coming out like this, and then we'll have the side of it like that. So what they do is the stems of the leaves kind of point into that center, but we're going to have some yellow little not decorative, but the center of the plant in the middle later as well. So you'll want to create these leaves a little bit away from that center. So I'm going to take maybe my next one will come out like this, and then I'll come down in this vicinity, and then we'll come up like this. And you can really have them kind of forming whatever way that you want. I'm going to have some shorter ones in the front area, something like this, or the top area, so that way it makes it look like the plant is kind of laying down, and from the angle we're at as the viewer, we're seeing these ones closer to us. So those are kind of my front ones. Now I'm going to start working on my back ones, so I'm going to, or my ones behind these ones. So I'm going to have one coming out here, and then this one will kind of come back and meet that one in through there. And as I do these, in my head I'm just thinking I want them to kind of be a little more bubbly here and then pointy at the end. And maybe that's where I got its name, poinsettia. I think poinsettia or something like that. Maybe it got its name from the shape of these leaves in through here. So something like that. And of course, they're all converging into this center area. Let's see. I think I'm going to have a couple over in through here. So I'm going to take this one. And as I'm doing this, I also don't want them to all look exactly the same. So I'm putting them at slightly different angles. Maybe I hide, you know, one behind another in through there. I've got maybe one coming out way far out over in through here. And of course, you can certainly make yours into a much different formation than I have mine. This is just, I think I want this one to come like that, so that one sits behind it. Then maybe I'll have another one kind of laying out over in through here, so it's almost, you know, just kind of laying right on the table that our beautiful candle is sitting on. But again, you can make your formation whatever way that you want. If you want yours to be different than mine, that's awesome. Maybe we'll sneak one behind in through here as well, something like that. That looks pretty. I got to fill in these guys in through here like that. Maybe we'll have another little one tucked behind here. And you can see I've got my, you know, some of my tips going at different angles. I think I want to pull this one down just a little. Let's bring that one down just a little further in through there so it pulls, so it brings more into the center of the canvas. I'll put one over in through here. And again, the formation that you do does not have to be exactly as mine. You can have yours longer. You can have yours with more, you know, maybe you want to have two plants. You could certainly put more than one on the canvas. You could have them behind, you could have them in front, whatever works for you is absolutely fine. And then maybe I'll have another one kind of coming up in through here. And then I would just kind of probably stand farther away from it, see if this looks nice and balanced to me. If I have any adjustments to make, I certainly will do that. And then we're going to be using our medium brush we're going to use our large brush for the next step. So you can put your chalk away, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting the base coat for our candle and our bokeh dots. So these are out of focus little glow dots. So I'm going to call them bokeh dots. And I'm going to be using my large brush. I'm going to be using red for my candle, and then I'll be using a combination of red and yellow as the base coat for my bokeh dots. Sorry, it's cracking me up that I'm calling it that. Anyways, I'm going to start with red paint on my brush, and I'm going to get the base coat for my candle in through here. So I'm just going to bring it right to the edge of my chalk mark. As I'm coming down my candle, I'm going to want my candle to get really dark behind my flower in through here. So I'm going to focus more on my thick red being up at the top. And then as I come down the sides, I'm just going to give myself a little bit of red down these edges like that. So it kind of meets in with my flower like that. And then I'm just going to let myself kind of thin out the paint throughout the rest of the candle. So I may end up bumping into my flower or my plant. I'm going to call it a flower and a plant the whole time, so I apologize in advance. Actually, I think I want to get rid of this leaf in through here. I want that leaf to be more of my candle. So I'm just going to take water on my medium brush or small brush and erase that with a bit of water. I want my candle to kind of be evident back here. And I'm letting it kind of stay on the blacker side where it is meeting those leaves, because I'm going to have those leaves in front of my candle, and I also want my candle to look nice and dark down at the bottom. So that's looking pretty good to me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the remnants of the red on my brush, and I'm going to start creating all of these out of focus polka dots or out of focus glow marks that will give the impression that there is either a bunch more candles, or there's some holiday lights, or there's, you know, something back in the atmosphere behind this candle that is creating this glowing type of effect. So right now I'm just using the red that was on my brush. It will get a lot darker as it dries, so I'm not concerned about its vibrancy when it's wet like this. And then once I've got a whole bunch of red ones, now I'm gonna, without washing my brush, I'm picking up a little bit of yellow paint. And again, I'm gonna do more of these dots. So you can even overlap one of the ones that you've already done, and they will get a whole lot darker as it dries. So that's why I am doing this first layer, because it's going to help me build a really nice appearance and a really natural type of appearance with the multi-layered look like this. And I just kind of keep picking up a little bit of yellow as I'm going through and adding this layer. And they can be all different kinds of sizes. I'm just going for, you know, a variety of sizes, small ones and big ones and medium ones and little ones. So you can do yours as many as you want. You can do them right behind where the candle is going to go. You can have them even touching the edges of the candle, whatever works for you. And then once you feel like you've got enough on here, and again, we'll be doing another layer to these dots in a future step, so don't feel like this is all that's going to happen with them. We'll add a whole lot more information to them, but this is all we're going to do for the first step. And then we're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. Or no, sorry, we're going to use our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your large brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the base coat for our leaves. I'm going to use my small brush. The colors I'm using are green and red. I'm going to do my green leaves first, and this type of plant, the green leaves are more towards the outside. So I wouldn't do any green leaves on the inside. Just pick a couple on the outside to create your base coat on. So I'm going to do this one green, and the green and the red that we're using are going to be a little bit transparent, and I've planned for that because I want these leaves to, my whole composition is kind of in the dark, so I am using this to my benefit in order to let the paint take on some of that black underneath. So as I'm doing this base coat, especially as I'm getting into the more detailed leaves and through here, I'm going to start my color, my heaviest paint, on the outside of that leaf, and then I will bring it towards the inside. So what will happen is it'll become brighter on the outside and darker on the inside. So I'm just kind of outlining it with my green, and then I'm just kind of pulling it in towards that center part. And I'm going to do this for all of the leaves. This one almost, we did a little bit, but there's not really much for to show on that one, but especially these front ones will make a big difference. I'm going to do another green one in through here, so I'm going to start with my thicker paint on this edge in through here, and then I will just pull it towards the center of that leaf. So this will help us make it look like there's little veins in the leaf. It's also going to give us a little bit of diversity in that color as it's drying. And again, we'll do another coat on it in a little while. This is just going to get the party started, but it's also going to get the little bit of the dimensional aspect of it started, because we're using a little bit more of the paint at the edge of the leaf and a little bit less as it's getting in towards here. And again, that's just going to help you with that dimensional element to it. And again, just starting at that tip, kind of painting my way through my chalk to make sure I've got my chalk done, and then I can just almost pull it in towards where that center or the stem of that leaf is. I think I'll do one more little green one up in through here. And again, just consider this to be the base coat of these leaves. We will add a lot more dimension to them later. So now that I've done that, I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to attack my red leaves in the same manner. So I'm just putting red on my brush, and I'm going to start at the tip. I'm going to color that, that chalk, and then just kind of pull that paint in towards the darker kind of center type of area of that leaf. So doing the edges like this, and then you can just kind of pull that color in towards the center. So you may end up having some black evident by the time this step is done, which is fantastic. That's going to again show a lot of dimensional element to these little leaves. And of course this one's going to be underneath, so underneath these two, so this one might have a lot of darkness as it goes up into here. So I don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot. I'm kind of attacking my bottom ones first, I think, because that makes my process a little easier for painting purposes, knowing which one kind of sits on top of the other one, and I can also kind of cover up the edges of the one underneath it as I'm going through this process. So I colored that edge, and now I'm just kind of pulling the paint in towards the center of that leaf in the direction I kind of feel that the veins of that leaf would go. And I've got this little tiny one back here. I'm not sure if I can get too much on this one because it's just tiny, but we'll just kind of color it in a little bit in through here so we can definitely have that red represented. And again, I'm tackling these exterior ones first and working my way towards the interior ones, and this is helping me just make sure that I clean up all of my edges as I go through the process, and the ones that are on the exterior will lay on top of the ones underneath. So just again starting with my red, getting all the way to that chalk mark, letting that paint overlap the leaf that's underneath it, and then just pulling the paint towards the center of that leaf. And again, as this dries, you'll notice how the red gets darker as it dries. And again, we'll be doing another layer on it, so that'll get it to go brighter, but this helps make it look nice and realistic and has a lot of dimension to it. So here we go, we're on the exterior ones now, except for that one that I just missed, but most of the exterior ones. And you'll see as I am overlapping the dark area of the candle that we left a minute ago, this will make a lot of sense with this bright red going on top of it. You'll be able to see the red because we left some of that black there. So that's just a little trick that I'm doing because I know that I'm trying to paint the same color on top of the same color. So in order for these leaves to be evident, I needed to do something to make sure that they were evident. So I thought it'd be cool to make that candle go nice and dark down at the bottom, so to help me along with that process. So I'm just kind of getting these last couple in through here, just bringing this one to here, and then again just pulling the veins of the leaves towards that center. And we've just got a couple more in through here, and then once we've got this step done, we are going to be using our small brush for the medium brush. We're using our small brush right now. My medium and my small brush are very similar today in size, so that's why I keep referring to one as the other. But it's going to be the smaller version bristle brush is what we're going to be using for the next step. So this is looking pretty good in through here. I think I'm going to pull this up just a little bit more so I have the vein up a little bit higher. There we go. And then we've got this last one in through here. This big front and center one in through here is going to be very prominent as I am creating the details on the leaves later. So make sure we got some good shape on that one, and then just pulling these pulling the veins up towards the center of the leaf. And then again, once you've got this step done, you can put this brush away, take out your 1/4 inch bristle brush, which I believe I called the medium brush earlier, and you can get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our dots, our out of focus light dots, glow dots, bokeh dots, whatever you'd like to call them. We're going to finish those. I'm going to be using my medium brush, which is my small bristle brush. I'm going to be using red, yellow, and white, and I'm going to be using a combination of varying shades of those colors in order to get these out of focus little bursts of light in the background. So I'm going to start with red so you can see what happens as I build the layers of red. So I just started with red, and if I put red on top of red, I'm going to get an even brighter tone to it. So you could do a couple of those additional marks with just red paint on top of these other layers, and that's going to make it look even brighter. So you can build the brightness of red just by adding more layers to it. And you can overlap these, because just think of them as out of focus, and they would overlap each other. So the next color I'm going to go for is I'm going to create a peachy type of a tone. So I'm going to use red, yellow, and just a teeny touch of white paint. I don't want it to go too light on me, too pinkish of a color on me. I'm just kind of going for this nice light, this like peachy type of a tone. Oops, I just hit the green, I think. Maybe not. There we go. And what I'm going to do with this color is I'm just going to add more. I'm going to add more of these dots. I like using these bristle brushes to do this type of effect because they have firm bristles, and it allows me to get these nice soft edges to the object. So it allows me to make this circular type of motion and then just really soften those edges. And I can make as many of these as I want. I can make them big, I can make them small. Maybe I have a real large one in through here that's more aggressive with more paint and it's brighter. You can have them with dark edges or light edges. You can have light centers to them. So really the options are kind of endless when you're doing this type of effect, when you're going for something that's out of focus. But I think the main characteristic of this type of look is a circular type of a shape when you're going for the essence of like a light per se as the what that out of focus object is. So now I'm going to dip into some yellow and white. So I'm not even going to wash my brush. I'm going to just grab a little bit of yellow and a touch of white, make myself this kind of luminescent valued yellow that's not too, again, not too invasive, but still has some good yellow to it. I don't need a lot of paint on my brush. I know how powerful this is going to be, so I just put a very little bit on my brush. And that's almost too soft of a yellow for me. I think I'm going to, in a minute, add a little bit more actual yellow to it, but this will be good for some real bright valued marks. So I think I'm going to stick with it for the moment, and then I'll add a little bit more yellow to a couple of my marks in a minute. And anytime you want to, let's say, go back to one of the darker colors, you can certainly do that. I think I want a nice little bright one kind of coming out behind here. Maybe I'm going to actually just pick up just yellow at this point without washing my brush, and I haven't washed my brush throughout this process. So again, that's going to help these colors kind of talk to each other. You can, like I just did there, I overlapped one. This one maybe I want to go and give it a different kind of glow on the outside. So you can just have fun with what you're doing to these circular marks. They can become transparent, which means you can see through them and they'll be seeing the mark behind it. So again, you can make it into whatever vibrancy or subtleness that you want, but I'm just trying to keep the circular type of shape to it with soft edges as opposed to really sharp edges. So that's what, again, why I'm using this bristle brush, which allows me to keep these nice soft edges to it. That's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more of that light yellow to just give myself little bit more, a couple more really brighter marks. I'm probably not going to go white on any of these, but just allowing to have a few of these brighter notes will work, because I want my flame on my candle to be the star of the bright show, so I don't want these to take over and be any brighter than that. So that's looking pretty good to me. Maybe just a little extra punch here and there, maybe a little bit in through here. And then I'm going to be using this same brush for the next step. So I do recommend letting yours dry. I think I'm actually going into that peach color again, letting yours dry. And if throughout the drying process you find that you want something brighter or darker, you can certainly adjust it after that. And then once you feel that you've got all of your dots in whatever intensity that you would like, you can wash and dry this medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the wax part of our candle. So this big part in through here. I'm going to use my medium brush. The colors that I'm going to use are red, white, yellow, and that peachy color that we created for the out of focus dots previously. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to be designating the inside of my candle right up towards the top. And then I'm going to create a gradient from on the exterior part of the candle, lighter at the top and going down darker to the bottom. What I'm really looking to do is create the illusion that the flame is lighting up the inside of the candle and creating, you're almost being able to see a little bit of translucency through the candle wax itself, so it'll be lighter up at the top. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of white paint on my brush, and I'm going to be creating this really slender oval type of a section up towards the top. I'm going to leave a little tiny sliver of the red up at the very tippy top, and also I'm going to be creating soft edges. So that means I'm not going to have a really clean edge to it. I'm wiping my brush off on my paper towel so I can create that soft edge that I want. And there we go. So that's going to be the start of the inside of the candle. And then what I'm going to do is I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel. I'm picking up a little bit of that peach color that we created from before, and I'm going to create the lighter portion of the candle. This front edge, as it's meeting the white, can be almost a clean edge, but I like it a little bit softer, so it almost gives the illusion that the wax is kind of melting or softening in towards that inside of the candle itself. And then I'm just bringing this peach around these edges and even up on this top edge where that red sits, and you can blend it in just a little bit with that white in through there. I'm going to pick up more of this peach color and bring it down further down my candle in through here. And I'm not using a whole lot of paint on my brush. I'm really just looking to get the lightness from this color, but I don't need it to be overly wet, because I am going to want to build a little bit more lightness on the top in a minute. This is really just kind of starting the process of this gradient of sorts, and then I'm just kind of coming down in through here, making sure I've got it covering that red pretty well. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start picking up red on my dirty brush. So this is going to create that gradient effect coming down the candle. And I'm going to bring this, make sure that I've got a nice good coverage over on the edges of the candle. So you may find yourself going back over that edge that you had done previously. I need to wipe my brush off on my paper towel because I feel like I have too much paint. And then I'm just going to kind of bring it in like this. So I'm just looking for a gradient type of effect. I may end up doing even another layer on top of this once it dries, and if I feel I want it smoother, I can certainly do another layer to it. as I'm getting into this flower in through here, I'm going to go right over it because I know I'm going to be able to see the evidence underneath of that leaf. I just want to make sure I have a nice believable transition from the light to the dark. So if that means, you know, going over this leaf, and then when I go to finalize the details on that leaf, I can certainly re-accentuate those edges, but I'd rather kind of go over it than trying to paint around it. That's just easier for me. And then I'm just making sure this blends nice down into that darkness. I continue to pick up a little bit of red just to make sure I have as much coverage as I want in through here. And I'm just choosing to kind of do this left to right brush stroke, almost with a little bit of a curve, which is insinuating the form of this particular object. You could certainly use a vertical brush stroke if you wanted to, if you wanted there to look like there's little lines or whatever in that candle, or grooves in it. You could certainly do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm going to put a little bit of yellow on it. So this is just the deep yellow, and I'm going to give a little bit of a glow on the top of the inside of this candle in through there. And then I'm also going to put this a little bit towards the top side of the exterior over in through here. Now I'm picking up a tiny bit of white paint just to make sure that those two really work well together. And if you needed to let that yellow dry before you put the white, you can certainly do that. That's looking pretty good. I want to illuminate this a little bit more, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and my peach. White and my peach, just to get this a little bit lighter in through here. I'm not feeling like I have the lightness at the top of this candle that I want, so this is white plus my peach. Yeah, there we go. That's going to get me. That's going to get me where I want to go. And you know, as you go through this process, again, finding how light you want yours to go is kind of the key. I mean, you might want yours to go even brighter or lighter than mine to show that lit part inside the candle is really showing through the wax itself. That's going to be a visual preference. Now I'm picking up a little bit of yellow back on my brush just to get this top part to blend in with that edge in through there. And then I'm feeling like mine's looking pretty good at this point. I am going to let it dry to see if, I may have just a little highlight over here. I'm going to let it dry and see if there's any little bits I want to accentuate or get a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit in this center area, but I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good. So once you've got yours done, we are going to be using our, we're going to use this brush for the next step. We're going to use this brush. We're going to use this brush and the small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry your medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the flame on our candle, including the little wick too. So I'm going to be using both my medium and my small brush. The colors I'm going to be using are red, yellow, white, and black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my flame first, and then we'll come in and put a little wick in it so the flame has somewhere to come from. So I'm going to use my medium bristle brush first. I'm going to be starting with a little bit of red paint on my brush. And what I'm in essence going to be doing is I'm going to create the glow from the flame first, and I'm going to work my way towards that bright part of the flame. So I have a little bit of red paint on my brush. I'm going to have my wick somewhere in through here. My flame is going to be, the white part of my flame is going to come kind of up in this direction. So I'm going to have the glowy part somewhere not farther than the exterior of my candle, but maybe a little bit in. So I'm going to take my red paint and I'm really just going to give it this dry brush type of technique in order to get this red to be transparent or translucent like we were doing on the out of focus background. This is going to help my flame look like it is casting a glow on the atmosphere around it. So this is just red paint. I'm really just rubbing it until I'm kind of out of paint on my brush. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush and give it a pretty good squeeze so I don't have a lot of water on my brush. And then I'm going to pick up my deep yellow color and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to overlap my red with this yellow, and so it'll kind of create almost like red to orange to yellow. But the yellow, again, is very transparent. So as I go through this process, in a minute I will be adding white to it, but right now it's just really transparent, translucent. You can see everything behind it, so it's adding that glow to the atmosphere. So again, just kind of rubbing it on here until I feel like I'm just about out of paint, maybe a little bit more down in through here so we can get a good glow from that flame itself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow and white. So I have both yellow and white on my brush. This is where I'm going to start to create the kind of the exterior part of the flame itself. I'm going to want my flame to kind of come down in through here. I'm going to have it kind of wider at the base, and then it's going to get more narrow as it comes up. You could really get your flame to be in whatever shape that you want. I'm just going to kind of have mine looking like there's a little bit of movement to it, so I'm not going straight up. And then again, just going to rub this kind of out so this yellow and white almost blends in with that with the previous yellow that I had done. And I can even create this almost like wispy look, like a smoke type of look around the exterior part of what's going to be the bright flame that we're going to do in a minute. So I'm just, again, letting myself run out of paint, using the wet paint that I've got kind of scattered about in through here to rub it out and get a nice soft blend that's going to be around that interior flame portion. So that's looking pretty good for me. Maybe just a little bit more up in through here. That's looking pretty good. So now I'm just going to pick up white paint on my dirty brush. So I didn't wash my brush. I just picked up white paint, and I'm going to put my bright flame in the middle here. So I'm creating it a little bit wider down at the base. And again, I'm just using thin paint. I'm not using a real thick coat, and this way it kind of dries on the fly for me, and I can build brightness from that point. So if I was to use it really thick and heavy, what would happen is I would have to wait for that to, in essence, dry before I put any additional highlights or the yellow tones on it that I'm going to want. So by using it thin and using it with this bristle type of brush, which helps me to move that paint around, it will dry pretty darn fast, which allows me to add whatever information I want on top of it. While that's drying right now, I am going to put my wick on, and then I'll come back and add some little final details to it. So I'm going to pick up my small brush, oh, here it is, my small brush, and I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of yellow paint, and I'm going to put a real kind of bright glow at the bottom of my flame and through here. So look, this is the deep yellow, and I'm kind of getting it to blend in just a little bit. Now I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of red paint, and I'm going to put a smaller area of red within that same kind of section, but just down a little bit in through here. I'm just kind of tapping it in so it blends in with that yellow a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is going to pick up a tiny bit of black paint. If I can get a tiny bit on my brush, there we go, a tiny bit of black paint, and I'm going to put my wick into place. So I'm going to have my wick kind of coming up in through here, maybe bending back just a little bit and coming down into my candle right in through here. So it looks like it's going behind this bright area in through there. I'm going to put just a little bit of darkness down at the bottom of my flame in through here. Now, since I've done that and my flame is pretty dry, I'm going to wash and dry my brush again, and I'm going to put some final touches on that flame. So I'm washing and drying. Actually, I think I'm going to switch back to that medium bristle brush to get the final little touches on there. So wash and dry my medium brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit more white paint and get some nice brightness going on in the center of my flame, maybe a little bit more over on this right hand side. And this is where I would put my, wherever I want the brightest of the bright to go. I'll also come back with a tiny bit of my bright yellow on top of some of these edges a little bit, but right now just getting my bright part of my flame to emerge. This is looking pretty. It's got lots of movement in it. And now I'm going to wash and dry this brush, and I'm going to put some deep yellow on it. And then that'll be my little final touches. So I can take this deep yellow now and put it a little bit over the edge of that white. And now I've got this great vibrancy to the yellow on part of that flame. And you can do it, wherever you want. If you want a little bit up in through here, you can put that bright yellow on top of the white, and it adds that little additional bit of glow. You could even put some down in front of the edge of your candle down in through here. So that's the gist of it. What I would do, again, as always, is just kind of let it dry, see if there's any additional tweaks that I want to do, and then I'm going to be using my large brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your medium brush away, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to create a reflection on the surface that our candle and plant are on. I'm going to use my large brush. The colors that I'm going to use are predominantly red and green, but I'm also going to maybe use a little bit of that peach color, and if I'm feeling fancy, maybe a little bit of yellow too. What I'm going to be doing is just creating a little bit of a left to right type of reflection underneath the plant on the surface. I'll be pulling in a little bit of green for the green leaves, red for the plant, and then just the essence of this brighter section in through here. So I'm going to start with a very little bit of red paint on my brush, and again, so little that I'm even going to just wipe it off on my paper towel. I'm just going to create a left to right type of brush stroke in through here. I know that I'm going to put a little green there in a minute as well, but I know, again, that this red is going to be transparent, and you're going to see the background or the black underneath it. So I'm using that to my advantage so I can have a nice subtle type of reflection where I'm just adding a dimensional element to the painting so it doesn't look too flat, and so this doesn't look like it's floating. I just wanted to add something down at the bottom that gives me a more realistic type of appearance. So I've got a little leaf in through here. That's pretty good like that. I'm going to now pick up some of that peach color so I can get this to go a little bit brighter down towards the bottom of my canvas directly below here. So it's going to give the illusion that this is the reflection of the candle itself. And I'm just lightly going back and forth left to right. I'm not scrubbing it too hard. I'm letting it just kind of sit on the surface of the canvas. I think I'm going to pick up a little bit more red paint in through here so I can create the vibrancy of the center of the candle in through here. Yeah, that'll work for me. And again, reflections can be loose interpretations of just a similar color pattern, so you don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my green oxide just on the tip of my brush. Again, just looking to give myself a little loose interpretation of a reflection of sorts. So I'm just kind of pulling this out, a green essence in through there, maybe a little bit of green underneath this guy in through here, and then maybe we've got a little bit more underneath this guy in through here. And you could certainly, if you're going to be using a lot of other colors in in your leaves per se. You could come back later and add some brightness or tone it down, whatever is suiting for your reflection. But I think that's probably all I'm going to do for mine. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your large brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our plant. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors that I'm going to use are green, yellow, white, red, that peachy color, and that might be it. Maybe a little black if I feel the need. What I'm going to be doing is we'll be, in essence, just kind of doing a second coat on all of the leaves, but I'm going to be accentuating with a little bit of extra highlight some of the parts of the leaves that I feel would be illuminated by the candle a bit more. So let's take this leaf for instance. I'd probably illuminate like this mid-range, maybe a little bit further down and maybe the edges, because I feel that it's in a position that would probably be illuminated the most by the light. This little guy in through here would probably be illuminated the least because it's up close to the candle itself. And I'm going to use that thought process. The little tips that I feel would be kind of flipping out at the edges, I feel those would probably be catching the light the most. And I'll go through the process like that. I'm going to tackle my green ones first because they're in the back, and then I'll just work my way to the front. And then in the center, we're just going to do some fun little polka dots to give the texture of the center of the plant. I'm going to first start by making myself a light green color. So I'm going to use a little bit of green, yellow, and a touch of white. I don't need this to go super duper light, but I want my highlighted color on my leaves to be something other than white coming out of the gate. So that's why I'm going to be just pre-mixing myself kind of a light green color. And then if I do want any areas to be even lighter, I can pull in a little bit of white. So that's going to be my highlight color for them. And then I'll use my peach and plus white for my highlight color for my red leaves. So that's going to be that color. So I'm going to start over here on this side. I feel like maybe this little guy would have a little bit of a highlight in through here. And then again, I'm going to put my highlight on and then pull it down in the direction I feel the veins of that particular leaf would be going. So once I put the highlight on there, I could wipe my brush off, pick up a little bit of my green oxide if I felt I needed to go have it be any more blended, and or I could pick up a touch of black and green. I just picked up a little bit of black and green just to make sure I had a good enough shadow or the little veins of the leaf. You could also, I'm just giving you lots of alternatives here, you could also put a tiny bit of red in these green leaves. So I just picked up a tiny bit of red. So if you felt that you wanted that transition from the green to from the red leaves to the green leaves, you could put a little bit of red in those green leaves as well. So that gives you options, especially on these green leaves, as to how to approach them. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one in through here. I'm going to start with a little bit of my light green color. So I'm going to just kind of put that on this edge. I feel that this edge would be the edge that would see the most light effect. And then what I'm doing, once I've got my highlight on there, then I just make sure the rest of the leaf is painted. So I just picked up some of my green oxide, make sure I can't see any of my chalk mark, and then just make sure this is as blended as I want it to be. And again, if I wanted to pull in any red, I could do that, but I think I'm gonna just fly with that one as it is, and if once it dries I want to do anything different, I certainly will. This little guy in here, I feel like I'm not going to need much on the brightness, so I just put a tiny bit of my highlight color just on the tippy tip of this one, and then I'll just pull it up just a little bit. I'm picking up more of my green oxide right now just to make sure I have a good coverage, and I'm actually going to pick up black as well in a second because I feel like that's a little unpainted looking. So I just picked up a little bit of black just so this transition in through here. I feel like this red leaf would kind of cast a shadow on this little guy, so just making sure that I've got that the way that I want. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to wipe my brush off, go over here to this leaf. I might put a little bit of red in this too, but I'm feeling like I might want to put red just because I think it would look nice, but we're going to roll with it as is right now. I just am picking up a little bit more of my light green. This leaf is going to be on top of that red leaf back there, so this is the light green, just kind of pulling it in my edges and then just pulling it towards the center of that leaf in the direction that I feel those veins would be. So again, you can kind of use your own intuition to tell you what direction those veins kind of cross into the center of the leaf, but depending on where that light source is and what angle you're seeing that leaf at, you might see those veins kind of coming in different directions. Now I just wiped my brush off. I'm picking up a little bit of green oxide because I'm seeing a little bit of my chalk showing through in areas that I want the leaf to still be a little dark. So just making sure that I cover everything that I want to cover. So this is just green oxide that went back on my brush to get those covered. So now I'm going to tackle my red leaves. So I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to use the same thought process, but I'm going to start with my peach color as my highlight color. So I'll be using peach and red as my kind of highlight colors, knowing that the red is going to get brighter the more layers that I put on it. But I'm feeling like I'm probably not going to have to do a whole heck of a lot to these leaves because I'm feeling like I kind of already like them the way that they are with the darkness to them. But I'm feeling like they look really cool with the light of the candle in a nice kind of dark manner, but I want to make sure that it all looks like it's painted in. So I just picked up a little bit more red so I could make sure I've got a couple of little pieces of my chalk showing here, so the red will help me to make sure that that is taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and do this little guy in through here, so I'm picking back up just a little bit of my peach, and I'm using this peach as my highlight color again, so it harmonizes my colors. I've got this up in the candle as well, but it's really just a nice tone to use as my highlight for these red leaves. I know that I'm going to want some a little bit more dramatic than others, so like this one in through here, I'm going to use more of my peach color because I want this leaf to kind of pop out even more. So I've got quite a bit on this edge in through here, and then I'm going to just kind of pull it back into where I feel the stem or the veins of that leaf are. And if you ever feel like you're going through this process and you used too much of a light color, or you want to bring back or enhance that red, so that's pretty good, but I feel like it's not talking to the red enough, so I just picked up more red on my brush, and I can almost kind of put the red in the reverse direction, which will help tie it together with this highlight in through here. And it still allows me to have that interior vein look to it. I can use my red over on this side and give myself still a highlight on this side, but maybe not as light as this side. So you can really dictate which side is kind of facing that light source by the intensity of that highlight. So I just picked up a little bit more of my peach color, and I'm going to go ahead and put this edge in through here because I feel like this is kind of, you know, looking up towards that light. So just going to add a little bit of that peach in through here, making sure that it blends as much as I want. I'm going to put some red in through here. So I am right now kind of flipping back and forth between my peach and my red without washing my brush. So at times I've got both colors on my brush to create these highlights. Putting more peach back on my brush. This one's going to be a pretty dominant one, so I'm going to go pretty heavy in through here and then just kind of pull this up while it's still kind of wet into that center. Now I'm picking up peach and red on my brush for this alternative side. So maybe this one's a little bit darker in through there, and then just kind of pulling it up into, again, that center of that leaf. Something like this will work. And then maybe a little bit more red on my brush just to make sure this center ties pretty well. That's looking pretty good. Get my chalk to go away, and then I've just got a couple more over here. So again, peach is on my brush. This tip here I think would definitely pop out pretty good, and maybe curl this in like this so it looks like it's kind of buckled up like that. Putting red on my brush right now, and again I'm just kind of on each leaf flipping, starting with the peach, then going to the red, which will transition me into the darkness of the center of that leaf. This one in through here, I don't think I want this one as bright as this one, so I'm gonna just put a tiny bit of peach on maybe this little tip in through here, and then pick up red for the rest of it, so that way it ends up being a little bit darker than this one in through here, just so it looks like it's a little bit further away from the light, and or, you know, being shadowed by the leaf above it. I just picked up a touch of black to get this to go a little bit deeper in through here on my dirty brush. So black plus my red on my brush, just to, I want this to be evident, but I really don't want it to be as bright as the other ones. Plus I have some chalk I'm getting rid of. There we go. And then this guy over here, I'm just going to use a little bit of red to make sure my chalk is covered. And if you have any areas where the chalk is still visible underneath your red paint, you can certainly just pick up a tiny bit of black. That will help alleviate that. Picking up a tiny bit of peach for this guy over here. I feel like this little tip would be nice and vibrant in through here. And then, you know, some of them you don't even really have to be mindful of where those veins are going because you're just seeing the tip of them. This guy in through here, I feel I would see quite a bit on this edge over in through here. So again, I just keep picking up the peach, and I will alternate that with the red as I go towards the darker side of that particular leaf. So just a little bit of red in through here. And I'm just going for it to look believable, picking up a little bit of peach in through here, and then just transitioning that into the center of that leaf. And then this one in through here, I'm going to attempt to just go red, but that's not going to work. I thought it would work. So peach is on my brush now, just a little bit at that tip. I needed to be able to see it, but I didn't want it to go too light, but that's working pretty good. So now I need to fix this one right here. Just picking up more red in through here. I could see my chalk underneath. There we go. So now I'm going to do my center of my flower. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow paint, and this is just a whole bunch of polka dots. So I've got yellow paint, and I'm just, this is the deep yellow, and I'm just making a whole bunch of polka dots. And then I'm going to pick up, and I'm making sure it kind of crosses over those leaves so there's no unpainted area. And now I'm just going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up white, and I'm leaving some of the black little spots in between as well. So now I'm just picking up white and making a couple of little white polka dots, maybe a little bit more at the top of it, so it looks like it's being a little illuminated by that candle. And then you just fiddle with it. Let it dry. See if there's any other pops of highlights that you want to put. And then we will be using this small brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm going to be using my small brush. I'm going to be signing this in the bottom left, and I'm using red paint. I like to use my initials as my signature, but you could certainly use a symbol or your first name or the date, whatever you want for your identifying mark is up to you, because it's your painting and you get to sign it however you would like. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a really festive candle. And I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.